Hello everyone, welcome back to the Cine Bijou podcast. As you can see, the lights are dimming, the curtain is pulled back, and we're thrilled to pick up season 2 where we left off. From here on out, we'll be seeing you at least once a month with fresh episodes exploring the world of independent film. To keep up to date with latest episodes, you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. If you love what we're doing, the best way to help us grow is to subscribe, like, and share the show with your fellow cinephiles. We also want to hear from you, so please leave a comment on our latest episode and join the conversation. Finally, if you'd like to help keep the projector running, consider supporting us over on Patreon for exclusive rewards. Now, let's get into this month's feature. I think first off, what I'd like to do is get to know a little bit more about you and your work. So, I understand you hail from Mexico, and you're an author and a filmmaker. So, if you could tell me a little bit about your background growing up and what inspired you to pursue being an author and a filmmaker.
Great, sure. First off, thank you so much for this space. It's a pleasure for me to be here too. And I am Alejandro Vilpa. My background started as a writer. I started as a novelist. I have three novels in the market. And basically, to be honest, I just started writing just because I wanted to be a filmmaker from the beginning. But I mean, one way or another, I didn't do it earlier in my life, and then I started going to the Cannes Film Festival, um, attending through this program that is for young artists, where I got to learn from them, from the industry and all that. And then one day I just decided to jump into the industry. So this year, actually, I directed my first film, which is going to be my debut as a film director outside of my company, Vilpa Films. Yeah.
Okay, so the film that you're directing, is this the one that's called The Undertone of David Jansen?
Exactly. I'm directing and producing.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I noticed that you filmed that in Prague and or you produced that in Prague. Recently my wife and I actually came back from Prague, which is
Beautiful.
a fascinating place. So let's
Yeah.
talk about that film then. Let's jump straight into that. What's the inspiration behind this project?
Yeah, this is a beautiful question. So the undertone of David Jansen came up because I have a strong link to the classical music. I have a passion. I play the piano, and I've been doing for many years now. And when I was writing, looking for something or a topic to write about, I just decided to do something that I haven't done before, which is getting these characters in this classical music environment. And since Prague, it's the great place for classical music, opera, ballet, all those arts. I just got inspired by the city and started like writing this whole story about a violinist who is obsessed by the idea of perfection, and then this obsession turns him into an anti-hero that technically, goes darker and darker. So yeah.
It sounds a bit like Amadeus and the relationship between Mozart and Scaglieri there. There's something
Yes,
quite interesting about musicians becoming so obsessed with their art that it takes them into a dark place. Was that the
exactly.
particular draw for you?
Yes, it was. Actually, Amadeus was one of the emotional references that I got. I also there's also like others like Whiplash and Black Swan, which speak. I think what they have in common, and also the undertone of David Jansen, is we speak about the journey of the artist, regarding of any of the art that they are playing or performing. It's about what we all artists experiment while we are thriving in the industry, which is, are we good enough? At some point we feel that, and we have to, you know, um, keep working hard in order to be better.
So, filming in Prague, obviously, you had some support there with the Mexican embassy and the Czech Ministry of Culture. What was it like filming in Prague, and how did it inspire and shape David Jansen's story for you as the filmmaker?
I would say that Prague was the city that pretty much shaped the whole story. just because Prague has the beautiful locations. Has It's a city that it's, I would say, filmmaking friendly because it's very easy to just film whatever you want there. People are very used to shoots, to see filmmakers around the city and all that. And with the Mexican embassy, I reached them because when I was a writer, I learned that, when you are in another country, sometimes getting to the embassy and see if they have, some ongoing cultural initiatives in the city, it's the best way to gain support. And they actually supported me by by introducing me one of the biggest choreographers in Prague, which is actually Mexican. Yeah, she's Valeria Gaona, a Mexican dancer and choreographer, and also Carlos Ruiz, which is also a Mexican choreographer, which they saved me because I didn't have a backup plan for for that.
Okay, so let's look at your career as an author. So you said you went in to become a writer because you wanted to get into films.
Mhm.
So how did you get into being an author, and what sort of books, what sort of stories do you tell?
Yeah, well, I mean, I started writing myself. I started writing fantasy, but the first book that I actually published was a mystery book, was a thriller actually. So I am known in the publishing industry as a thriller novelist, but about crimes, about mysteries, where the reader has to solve it also. So yeah, basically that's my craft, and then I just jumped into the psychological drama of The Undertone of David Jansen.
Hmm.
Drastically, yeah.
So so with your books then, with your stories, say you started off with fantasy, moved into crime. Um, who were your influences when you were looking to sort of develop these stories? Who inspired you and influenced you in writing the crime stories? Because there's
Yeah.
so many good crime novelists out there. There's some legends that have inspired others. So who was your key inspiration?
Yeah, this is a great question. So actually, I would say that I have two different inspirations. Some of them are from the publishing industry or the writers, and some of them are actually from the cinema industry, right? So, as one of my biggest inspirations in the film industry was Christopher Nolan, Memento. That was like a very big inspiration for my biggest or my most known work, which is called The Breath of the Innocents. But in the other hand, for writers, I really love David Baldacci and John Katzenbach, and of course the Mexican Juan Rulfo, which I would say they were my biggest inspirations, where I learned from in order to craft my own voice as a writer.
Okay, that sounds fascinating. I guess do you write straightforward crime novels, or do you sort of delve into noir style writing like Spillane or?
Yeah, I think I'm more of a noir
Mhm.
writer. What I do like to do is I like to kind of play with atmospheres. So people used to say when they read my books that it was almost as if they were watching a film, just because I like the idea of building atmospheres and then to just allow them to pretty much, finish the details by imagining themselves, and that creates a little bit of, makes them get deeper into the scene. So yeah, that's what I enjoy. I still write novels. Right now I'm writing a novel. I'm not sure what's going to be the outcome yet because I'm making films, but hopefully it's going to be out soon.
Okay. How does your how does your skill as an author um, shape your abilities as a filmmaker? Because they're two very different kinds of storytelling. I know that's a bit of an obvious thing to say, but I think some people don't fully appreciate just how different they are, and you have
Yeah.
to, I suppose, tailor your approach quite
Yeah.
and change and completely change your approach in telling the stories in the different mediums. So how does
Mhm.
one invariably impact the other?
So I think each director and also each producer kind of delivers to a film or to any piece of work that they do according to the background that they are from, right? So when I started like filmmaking, actually with the undertone of David Jansen, like my first formal big work, big piece, I was thinking, okay, my strength is actually storytelling. So what I should do is to focus and make the best storytelling that I could, deliver. And then with that story, I came to my producer Ivan Surnik, and then I told him, we should bring this to life. And from that, then I try to, partner with the best talent that I could have in any other area and kind of learn from them while I was at the same time directing. And I think that made like a very nice team work between each other, and the result, I think we're very proud of it. We will see it next year.
Okay, look forward to that.
Me
So,
too.
uh, let's talk about Vilpa Films briefly, and then we'll move on to your big project, which I'm really excited to get stuck into with you.
Thanks.
So, you set up Vilpa Films. Can you give me a little bit of background about how that came about and what was the intention? Was it to produce films or distribute a vehicle for your work? If you could just give me a little bit more.
Yeah, of background, sure. So actually, Vilpa Films was born in Cannes Film Festival. I've been attending to Cannes Film Festival in so many ways for the past 5 years. Some of those years, I had been working with producers, with big Hollywood producers, where I learned everything that I am applying to Vilpa Films in terms of looking for opportunities in the industry, right, and talent too. And it came up with the idea of, yeah, a vehicle for my work, but also door for other filmmakers to kind of partner and at some point to make something meaningful together. And this opportunity component is what I think is driving right now any project that I'm having, just because in anything that I'm doing, I try to deliver opportunities to somebody. So because I thought that there was like a big gap between independent filmmaking and the top tier or the mainstream area. And I was just thinking both of them there are so much talent in both of those areas. So why don't we just create an environment, a bridge for everybody so that we can be equals? And this is what led to Vilpa Max.
Okay, so the idea is basically then to have a sort of platform for other filmmakers like yourself to get work produced and seen.
Hmm.
So especially at prestigious events like Cannes, which is
Yeah.
great. So this leads us on to then Vilpa Max, which is the streaming service that you've announced. Uh, my understanding is that this is specifically for short films.
Yeah, at the
Uh,
moment.
yes, with a view to expanding onto sort of other projects to maybe give Netflix a run for its money. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly.
So, what inspired you then to undertake this venture of setting up a streaming platform for short films?
Well, so Vilpa Max and this whole mission came up from, I mean, when we were finishing the undertone of David Jansen as any other producer, we were like looking for already doors, to get into in the festival run. And then I just saw that most of the short films, or many of them, they don't have actually a transcendence after the festival run. Even if they win the Oscars or can, there are like some films that people don't really know that they were so good. So when I decided to craft this channel, of course as a vehicle for my own work at some point, but also in order to give opportunities to other filmmakers, it's my way to to retake this format, which is also, I mean, in the industry, people or the audience is, increasingly watching more short formats, and just give it a twist and launch it as a first step to scale for other formats.
So I've been personally not just through this platform, but generally for various through various outlets, have been sort of covering and reviewing short films, and I've noticed that there is definitely more of a demand for this kind of content. That its prestige has gone up. So, do you feel that now is the right time to launch a short film? Well, initially, a platform
Mhm.
dedicated to short independent films.
Yeah, I'm very sure that it is because I mean, right now we're already like hearing about other formats. For example, right now there's like the vertical format gaining some strength, of course, very much in the industry. So that is also my way of start delivering short formats, but still having the cinematic quality, right? Which is something that we cannot see necessarily in formats, and still have an entertaining purpose out of it. Yeah.
So, with short films, then, aside from film festivals, there isn't really a platform that they can be seen in as a cinematic event, as you put it. Because I mean, I know that there's a platform called Fearless, that's run by Matt Burmaster. That has a specific genre that it looks at, but generally, I think short films are either released through Vimeo or YouTube,
Hmm.
or if you're lucky, Netflix might pick it up because I or Prime to screen some short films. So, but given that there's a demand now, how will you be able to compete with bigger platforms? What's the uniqueness of what you're offering to filmmakers and distributors to screen their
Yeah.
product?
Well, I mean, I would say there's like two answers for this. The first answer is, of course, there's an evident bridge or a gap that has to be covered between independent filmmaking and the channels that they get distributed in, right? uh, our aim is to cover that gap. It doesn't mean that there's not other players in the industry covering it, but something that is very evident is like there's a lot of demand. So even all of the producers out there, I don't think the number of them is enough to cover such demand of art going, being developed. And in the other hand, Vilpa Max was born of idea of the idea of being a partner, not really a competitor. So we just closed a partnership, for example, with the biggest distributor in the Middle East, to showcase films from the Middle East, from Egypt, from all those countries. Um, and the way is just we created a new channel, focus and a specific cinematic approach that right now people what I'm saying is people that are watching our content won't think that we're competing with other platforms because the personality is different, right? The soul is different, and we are open even to partner with bigger platforms, of course.
So, will you be also partnering with various film festivals, especially those dedicated to short films, like, for example, Holly Shorts, which obviously was set up in the States, the US, 20 plus years ago, and has recently branched out to London and Dubai in
Yeah.
terms of hosting events and screening sort of unique talent there. Will you be partnering with event organizers like that?
Yeah, of course. Actually, one of our films were all in Holy Shorts, Dubai, a few weeks ago, because we also represent some of the films in festivals, and of course, our aim was to get to know the people and for sure offer. Right now, we are open to offer this door to any filmmaker that wish to approach to us. And festivals, I would say, is the key component. We are not against them, of course, because it's part of the lifetime of a film. We are partnering with them to offer a life, after festivals.
Right, I'm with you. So, obviously, one of the issues that any streaming platform faces, even the big ones, is streaming into not just countries where they're based. It's like Netflix has no problems providing content for its Western base. So in Europe, most of Europe and US, but it obviously also provides content or streams content into the Middle East, into South and Central America, and so on. But of course, those countries, especially in places like the Middle East and South Asian countries, they have certain restrictions about what you can and can't stream in terms
Mhm.
of the stories that could be told. Some stories won't sit well in certain regions as they will in everywhere else.
Yeah.
So, what's the challenge for you to meet that need, uh, but balancing it with the need to provide a home for all filmmakers and all types of stories?
Yeah, yeah, as you mentioned, it's actually quite of a hard decision to make, like which kind of films are actually suitable for any market or things like that. Right now, we will be starting in this 31st of January, the next 31st of January, in MENA region, which is Middle East and North Africa, and also the UK. Of course, our goal is to target other markets like the US and Europe, but what we're doing at the moment is we are trying to understand the markets. The different markets actually have something in common. So we're trying to match these points and of course deliver the content in order for these markets to have it, but at the same time from a sense of respect, right?
Yeah,
So to understand like which markets are sensitive to which kind of films
right.
without leaving aside the fact that there's emerging filmmakers that
Yeah.
deserve to be seen.
And I suppose also there is an increasing demand for different types of stories that perhaps uh, go against the cultural norms of certain regions. And these are starting to, they're not breaking their way through, they're not sort of smashing through barriers, but they are certainly sneaking their way in, I suppose.
Yeah, I think what, and that was my first learning when I started in filmmaking. What films can do, the impact, the social impact that films can have in life and in society is like really big. So I would say that society is also changing. I mean, our company is based in Dubai, for example, and what I've seen there is that the market is changing. The market is opening to different kind of stories, and also there's a lot of big investment happening right now in general in different parts of the world. So I think what we're trying to do is just to build a community. We don't see Vilpa Max as providers and users. We really see this as a community that can gain something from each other.
Okay, that's interesting. So, how does one go about setting up a streaming service? I've always been a bit curious about this. What was the first steps you took to get this project underway?
Well, that's a great question. So, I mean, I'm also part of my background is actually I'm a web developer. So, of course, at the very beginning, I was thinking if I cannot do it, if I cannot find a team to do it, I will have to do it myself, which will be a painful experience at some point to do it myself. Um, but I think the streaming service is more of is more of an outcome of a relationship with the user. That means that I didn't really think about I'm gonna just launch a streaming service. What is it about? It's more about I was trying to find solutions, and my way to portray the solution of bridging the filmmaking cinema with the top tier festivals are is the streaming platform. And from there, it was a little bit natural to look for a team, that our focus and expertise in streaming platforms. And I mean, many components just started like going together and match each other. And here we are, basically.
So, you're looking to launch in the new year, 31st of January. Um, so, two things about the launch then. First off, how far along are you in terms of developing the platform itself? Is it all ready and good to go and working, or is there a lot of work to do?
No, it's actually very close to the finish line already. We are working very hard to have it all live by the 31st of January. And I think that right now what will our main operations are there's a lot of films that we have to actually see right now from submissions from filmmakers. So we're trying to do that process like quite agile in order to bring them into the catalog as fast as possible. And there are just a couple of details, but it's almost live.
Okay, so you talked about submissions then, so let's get to that then. What
Yeah.
sort of films have you got? Well, what titles have you got lined up that will feature on the platform when you finally go live? I think I've heard some. I've had some names thrown around, like the Mozart of Pickpockets from
Hmm.
Philippe Paulin-Villard, and also Poof from director Dean Anderson. But can you give me an idea of the kinds of submissions you're getting and what we can expect to be featured?
Yes, of course. First, I would like to add that we are more than open to any kind of submissions for everybody who wants to send them to business@vilpafilms.com. They can send it and we will review them. On the other hand, our slate is actually very wide in terms of different genres. We have film festival selections such as animated short film Waves 98, which is a beautiful short film from Lebanon. We also have All the Crows in the World from this filmmaker, Asian filmmaker that won the Palme d'Or in 2023. And we also have The Mozart of Pickpockets, which is an Oscar-winning film. But in the other hand, we have independent cinema from the UK, the US, Egypt, we're everywhere in the world, all very talented.
So how do you go about selecting films? I guess you have to be a little bit discerning. I know you want to be open to all, but you have to be a bit discerning. So how do you go about choosing uh, or deciding that a film is suitable to be featured on the platform?
Yes, of course. So I mean, I of course we respect any kind of films, right? But of course there are some characteristics, and mostly those characteristics that we are looking for or requirements are, of course, that they have a cinematic approach, but also that they have certain level of quality in terms of sound, cinematography, and image, right? Also, we value a lot a good, consistent storytelling so that it doesn't feel like, the story is glitching at some point. Um, and for those filmmakers that we say no to, because of course we always reply, we offer other means of development. We at some point deliver some mentorship. We are always open to, if we say no to your film, that doesn't mean that your next film couldn't be part of it. So we believe that any filmmaker, they are in different levels and parts of their learnings. So yeah, basically we're looking for well done, talented short films, but still respecting any kind of work.
So you don't just flat out reject a submission. You if you decide that a film isn't suitable for the platform at that time, you guide the filmmakers through a process whereby they can either improve it or at least make sure they're not so disheartened that they don't submit back to you. So you actually encourage them to try again with a bit more
Exactly.
assistance. That's great. That's so you're
Yeah.
actually you're not just providing a streaming service, you're private, like you said, you're providing a mentorship.
Yeah.
That's very different. There's a couple of things I want to touch on because the film industry over the last, I think coming up to 12 months now, and streaming in particular has gone through some changes. And those particular changes are the executive orders from President Donald Trump about employing tariffs on films not made in the US.
Hmm.
And then, of course, there's the discussions of the Netflix Warner Brothers buyout, which includes their streaming platforms,
Hmm.
which could both of which could potentially impact the industry. What impact are either of those likely to have on Vilpa Max? And if they are likely to have a negative influence, have you any thoughts on how you would challenge that?
Yeah, of course. So first, I think for Vilpamax, or for this impact in a bad way, if to see a bad impact in Vilpamax because of this things in the market. It's a little bit early to do it. Nevertheless, for example, there are some films that we have been getting to our catalog that were part of the catalog for Netflix first, right? I think, in any crisis, if you want to say that this is a little bit, there's also an opportunity. And I think the fact that the market is changing is not a bad thing, but it can be a good thing because there's always opportunities. And probably at some point, the market changing is actually our own door as Vilpa Max to enter into the market, which is why I think it's having. At the same time, we're looking for for partnerships with different players, like big players. We have mentors in the industry that belong to the biggest players in the industry. So I think it's what we have to do is keep building the community and try to find opportunities for everybody and find doors towards the bad or the different opinions that they can have against some of the films, right?
Yeah, totally agree. Now, in talking to you about this platform, you obviously seem very enthused and excited about it. I mean, who wouldn't be? And I suppose there's some nerves involved as you approach go live date. How does that make you feel as a storyteller and filmmaker? How has undertaking this project how is it inspiring your need to tell stories?
Well, it's actually motivating myself a lot more to keep building stories. Of course, right now, one of my goals for 2026 is to develop the first production, Vilpa Max production. We're going to start production from this short film, which will be an animated short film called Blue Shades that I wrote. And it actually, the script had some festivals awards in the past years. So yeah, of course but in the other hand, right now we're like working so much like having this done that I think I still have to make the extra effort to look for the times of creativity. So right now I'm struggling between I have to write, but at the same time I have to have this done. So you know, it has to be a little bit of everything.
Where do you see what's the yardstick? Where do you see Vilpa Max in 5 years' time? Where would you like it to be? Once it's overcome the challenges we talked about, and once you're up and running, where would you like to see it in 5 years?
I think I would really like to see Vilpa Max as part of the big players. Of course, that's our vision and our goal. But at the same time, in 5 years, we would like to look back and see, all the opportunities that we gave to other filmmakers and how filmmakers, some of the filmmakers in our catalog, they are just starting their careers. They're just starting their journey. So imagine if they can, have a specific journey as an artist that they started in the very beginning. So I think that would be very interesting to see, like to see what other films we can see from them, right?
Okay, yeah, I like
Yeah.
the sound of that. Um, it's a very positive thing what you're doing, which is giving a platform to short independent films. Because, like I said, there is such a market for them. And I wanted to ask you this about short films in general, which can only enhance when you come to accept submissions for Vilpa Max, which is I'm seeing, like I said, a real resurgence in short films in which the ones that are getting the awards, the big awards like the BAFTAs and the Oscars. I think there was one last year, which was an Iranian film, In the Shadow of Cyprus. And it's really getting people talking. And I guess the question is, how do you see Vilpa Max as a part of that conversation, if you like?
That's a beautiful question. I think Vilpa Max is already a little bit part of that conversation, just because we had been partnering with people in festivals. We have been partnering with films from these kind of awards. I think that films, and I think it's very clear that films that get to that kind of awards, they actually have certain kind of level. So we at Vilpa Films, we don't see those films as unapproachable, but maybe at some point also films that you can learn from, even from my own productions, right? Who knows? What if my own productions don't get a BAFTA or an Oscar? That doesn't mean that they are not meaningful or valuable, but maybe it's an opportunity for myself as a director to keep developing my craft, right? So if we put everything like as equals in the same environment, it will nurture, it will create a conversation.
Well, that's it for this episode of Cine Bijou. Thanks for joining us as we pulled open the curtain once more, revealing the world of independent film and the creative mavericks who make it all happen. If you enjoyed this episode, why not leave a star review or drop us a comment? It's a small gesture, sure, but it means the world to us, and it helps fellow film fans find their way to us too. Make sure you also follow us on all the usual social media haunts: Instagram, Facebook, Threads and Blue Sky. And for reviews, features and more, why not pay us a visit at our website www.cine-bijou.co.uk. And if you are spreading the word, please don't forget to use the hashtag #SupportIndieFilm, because every share helps keep great stories in the spotlight. Until next time, keep listening, keep discovering, and as ever, let's keep that indie flame burning.